you can, and y'all become your city council. The mayor position is a matriarch position. That's why it's called mayor. Mayor is a female horse. And the March of the Mayors always lead the culmination of a meeting of the grants with the grand matriarch. Right? Now they don't do it that way. In their system, the mayor doesn't have the stroke that they used to have. Your mayor, all of the mayors in a territory, they call them states now. So all the mayors in the state used to go to the capital to meet with the grand matriarch of that territory or state. They call it a governor, right? The governor is the meaning of the Ottoman term "bey," right? So the governor normally had a governor and lieutenant governor, which was a matriarch and a chief. The matriarch was the governor. The chief was the lieutenant governor who presented everything to the public. Right? Now, when all of the grand matriarchs from every territory come together, right, they form a different council. We call it a Senate or Congress. Right? That's the de facto corporation's version of it. Right? But we used to call it the meeting of the matriarchs or the matriarchal council, the council of the grand matriarch, depending from which part of the land we came from.
So another question tying into community is, so what should we as the daughters of tribes be doing? Does that just go back to the whole becoming city council?
Right. It goes back to the same thing. So in every city that we got a large population, we got churches. The Baptist church, the Protestant churches that's incorporated with our culture are what we call Holy Ghost churches, where they shout. And they all have a group of women called prayer warriors and church mothers, right? Each church pick a church mother and gather all of the churches. If you have a large Islamic presence, each one of them pick a Ummah or Ummi, Ummi Islam or Ummi Dar Islam. That means the mothers of Islam, right? And they will form a council, and then the leader of them will connect with the leader of the church mothers. This don't no longer have anything to do with religion. We destroying religion by instituting spirituality, just like they destroyed spirituality by instituting religion. Right? So then we teach the sisters Sufism, because that's the ancient power source. It tells them how to turn the mitochondrial on and how to turn it up to full capacity, and it changes the frequency of the whole planet. So they wasn't allowed to take it from us, but they got men practicing it. The men can artificially raise their mitochondrial frequency, but it won't last when they leave unless it's with a woman. So when you see the Sufis doing their ceremonies, they are actually doing what you call mitochondrial activating ceremonies. The whirling dervishes, that comes from figure skating, spinning around on the ice, right? They just do it with no skates on. All of those things is designed to activate the energy field of the woman. Every woman is a Tesla coil when she's balanced, right? And the man become the battery pack. When you put the battery with the Tesla coil, y'all become a remote control for y'all manifest reality. What's the next one?
Next one is, what about the islands? What is our rights in this process?
The islands are ahead of us. They already ousting the rulership of the crown of England. They're getting from under the rule of the fake queen, and each island is supposed to have their own queen, their own grand matriarch, or or island mother. They used to have that until the invaders came.
Before I say the next one, speaking on the islands, you posted yesterday, speaking on Arawak and the Taino. I was happy to see that.
Yeah, so those are some of the biggest tribes. You also had your Boricua, and a few more of them that made up the islands. The islands was resorts for us. You know how they use them for tourism now?
Yeah.
Well, you wasn't allowed to be a tourist on the island without bringing gifts to the matriarch. And she would send you back home to give your matriarch gifts. This is how we know our culture's been usurped. Because now people just go to the island with no regard for the people of the island. Right? So when the tribe would do a family vacation from up here, Big Mama would say, don't go down there without taking this with you. And she'd give you a whole bunch of whatever, food stuffs that, whatever that island doesn't naturally produce that they can benefit from, that's what we would send them. And then they would send us what we call the delicacies of the island, which is their exotic fruits and their exotic arts and crafts. And they would send that back for Big Mama. And then Big Mama would give gifts out of those packages a lot of times. Right? So that was in our culture. We never went to nobody's house without bearing gifts until they gave us a Bible.
That damn Bible. Whatchamacallit, where can the Nubian men go that want to tribe up in North Carolina?
Y'all, somebody have to be the spearhead, the first one to start it. Right? That goes for anywhere. Somebody had to be the first one to start it in the local area. You know, it could be rallied around a farmer's market, or it could be rallied around a religious institution, no building, but you're going to overthrow religion by instituting spirituality. Most of the so-called Muslims that's the converts of the last 50 years, they already know what's up. It's just the Christians that used to be like Malcolm, the Vernon Johns Christians, are now Martin Luther King Christians. Martin Luther King used a military strategy adopted from Mahatma Gandhi called civil disobedience. That means you can't tell us what the fuck to do. We're going to go where we want. It's our land. We're not listening to a de facto corporation issue us orders. Right now, we at the point where if the chiefs don't start stepping up and organizing, it all start with the family. Because they wanted to give us a one world currency from a centralized bank that was stationed in Switzerland. We don't want that, because that means that they still holding our wealth hostage. We want them to get the fuck gone and we can handle our own wealth. Well, in continuity of government, they are right now organizing how to divide up the wealth among family banks to decentralize the centralized banking system used to steal our wealth. Right? So if you're going to decentralize it, you have to put back the original structure. You know, so that's what we're working on. So somebody, anywhere you at, have to be the spearhead. You know, you have to be the first one to start organizing your local area. Right? I'm just telling everybody, all of the biggest chiefs, male and female, across the land are all on the same page. And my job is to inform the grassroots that we finna step back into the power. But not only are we stepping back into power, we reclaimed all our wealth. And we have the military support of the most powerful military in the world to enforce it for us when we claim our power. The only thing we waiting on now is critical mass of awareness that the old system is gone. Be aware that the old system is gone. Be aware that our system returns to oral tradition. And we put things in the public domain So we don't do that secret squirrel shit and motherfuckers selling you out behind your back.
I put a little bit more water in it. This is called too.
Appreciate you, nephew. Right. So, the organizing effort, the cheat sheet, right? Everybody, like, you can't mention tribing up to them. You just tell them that you want to be counted among the righteous, and you can talk to anybody in the Nation of Islam.
All right, so this one, it's like a statement in a comment. He says the Black community is already under matriarchy and things ain't looking good at all. When y'all speak about patriarchy, it'd be a good idea to separate European from indigenous patriarchy. The land is under European patriarchy, not indigenous. If we were matriarchal, that means that we got conquered under matriarchy. Critical thinking is crucial. Both matriarchy and patriarchy are one-sided. The two together make a whole. The latter is the solution, not the formers. And that was the end of that.
He partially right. And matriarchy did get overthrown. That's why we in this fucked up condition. And it was overthrown by women who wanted their mate to be rulers of the world. They come from a whole different psychological makeup than matriarchal people. What we perceive in this matriarchy, and this is why he's talking about two sides of the same coin. That's European matriarchy and European patriarchy. The European matriarchy is the woman has to manipulate her man into position to do what's necessary, right? Under our matriarchy, it's not about the man or the woman. It's about the children and the future. So when we start looking at the difference, he's looking at feminism as patriarchy, a matriarchy. Feminism is a patriarchal in-run around matriarchy. That's how they overthrew the matriarchy, because the sisters they deceived didn't know the difference, right? Because they was under the cultural conditioning of running the tribe a certain way. And when a threat comes, the chief stands out front, right? So we can't mix feminism with patriarchy because they're not the same thing. I mean, with matriarchy. Patriarchy and feminism, European patriarchy, is the flip side of the feminist movement. And European patriarchy requires you to subjugate potential heirs by anally penetrating them, making them unfit to rule. That's why they're pushing a gay agenda. The ruler can't be anally penetrated. And his semen can't be found in another man.
That's deep. That was it from the comment section. When I had started the live earlier, there were like 3 questions, new ones. So
let's get to them.
Touch on that real quick. Somebody asked, do we stop enrollment into the schools and colleges? Do we stop all signing of any consent forms, period?
I've been screaming, take your children out of educational system, because they're using it to train us for prison and labor. It's the slave training system, modern education. We have to disassociate in order to take the education of our children into our hands and educate them to be free, independent, self-sufficient, and free thinkers. The system we are under is diametrically opposed to any of that. So the short answer is, yeah, kill the educational system. It's a couple things holding them in power right now. One is the contract with the W-2s and W-4s through the IRS. I mean, people are going to work every day. That's because they operating on a per diem basis. That's mean by the day.
Yeah.
So when a certain amount of people clock in a 24-hour period to a job, that's where they derive in the next day's wager from, right? And the educational system is the secondary contract because you signing your child up to be subjugated by the de facto corporation, which is actually two corporations that merged, the Northwest Trading Company and the Virginia Company. Both of them were slave trading companies.
Yeah, so to answer y'all question, y'all should have been enrolled them yesterday ago. What should we call it? What do we need to do to get rid of birth certificates and social security card hold over people who have yet to proclaim a nationality or haven't linked back to their indigenous tribes as of yet?
So what we have to do is call abandonment of the contract. We have to abandon the contract because they have never honored a single contract and they had no intentions of honoring them. So that makes the contract become fraud. And that's a criminal action under the law of the land. And the only remedy for the one that discovers the fraud, whereas not to be party to it, is to abandon the contract. I mean, just stop using anything, driver's license, birth certificates, social security cards, anything that require that. Skip it.
All right. To piggyback off of that, if you was to, you out driving and you get stopped and you want to start implementing what you just said and you don't have your driver license, what would people do in that moment?
Well, until we become reach critical mass, they still in power. They still in power until we kick them out of power.
Okay.
And the naysayers is what's holding them in power right now. The ones that don't know no better. They are the most deceived bunch right now. So until we see three kings walking on the land, they still in power. So they can still harass you and give you a hard time. But none of this shit is legitimate. They're all operating in a de facto capacity. They all know this. The police know this at the higher levels, but the foot soldier police don't know shit. All they did was went to school, got a diploma, took them a couple of years of pre-law or criminal law, and then they joined the academy and became a cop. You don't need a PhD to be a police officer, right? So all you need to know is the people versus, Miranda versus New Mexico, right? Which is your Miranda rights. And you need to know the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. And after that, the rest of it, they wing it. They winging it. They winging it like a motherfucker because they don't know. And when you run across one that knows he's not gonna treat you, he's not gonna bully you, right? But as long as we leaving them in power, they got the jurisdiction to, or at least they have the appearance of jurisdictions enough to make you uncomfortable for a while. But don't nobody want to voluntarily be uncomfortable where they can control it for a little while to be free for eternity. So they all want to go along to get along with the system.
This next one, which is pretty much the last question that I had typed up, if anybody had like maybe 2 or 3 more, a matter of fact, there was one in the comments. So why do our men promote rape culture in jail?
Because they gay. Seriously, look, when you can't promote something that ain't part of who you are. I don't support rape culture. I did 16 years. I don't fuck with boys.
Yeah, real men ain't promoting that shit.
Yeah, the ones that's pushing that shit is gay.
There you go. Who said that? I'm not even about to butcher your name. This question was, if I file a 1099, does that mean I'm back in contract?
Yep. You're contracting with the Internal Revenue Service. Those are internal documents. Right? But the 1099 before January the 4th was the smartest course of action to navigate the contract. Now that the contract is up, we don't want none of it. See, we went from navigating the contract. This is what Taj was teaching us for so long, how to navigate the contract, right? And if you understood what he was teaching, then you could have navigated the contract during its life. As of January the 4th, 2019, the contract ended. When the contract ended, now everybody that's trying to use the navigation process is actually making it worse for themselves because they recontracted with a dead entity.
Nobody saying nothing in the comments for any questions. So just to reflect back from the beginning, the declaration is nothing but the goodbye letter, letting us know if we step up, they just stepping out the way. And abandon the contract. Anything, Social Security, birth certificate, driver license, 1099s, W-2s, all that. Anything that links back to them, just abandon it.
Right. So the biggest entries that they using is the contract for education with the children, the contract for labor with the jobs, and the what they call judicial contracts, which is court claims. People calling the police on motherfuckers. Don't call the police on that nigga, beat his motherfucking ass.
If we live in Mexico, how can I cross my family into America without a passport?
Wait till you see the Three Kings, because we're gonna do away with that shit instantly. Because California, Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, Texas, all that's Mexico. That's all part of one land territory. That's part of the same territory. It wasn't until the Mexican-American War that they divided that up. And that's why Texas had to reserve the right to become an independent nation once the contract was up. So Texas can go back, it can divide up into as many as 5 nations.
Sheesh.
You know, that's gonna stay in their contract.